Right. So you get to campus, you get to Columbia, again, a very interesting time. You're part of Steve Spurrier's first signing class. And I mean, when Coach Spurrier took the job, obviously people in Columbia, everything's at a fever pitch. I mean, I remember going to, and I told Mike this too, Mike Davis. I remember going to the spring game in 2005, Coach Spurrier's first spring game. And I remember, I think it was like the first play. And I remember there's like 35,000 people there. Like it was a crazy, the whole entire lower bowls filled. And I remember the first play of the spring game, it was a pass, just nothing more than just a pass. And everybody in the stand stands up and it's like, like, oh my God, we're throwing the football. Like, it's like insane. Like, that's how crazy on edge people were. But talk about Coach Spurrier. Again, you played for a legend, a Hall of Famer. You obviously saw what he did after you left, and that run south kind of went on from 2010 to 2013. But what was the relationship like between you and Coach Spurrier?
It was Coach Spurrier, for some reason, you play, or at least I did. I played really hard for him, and I like the way he approaches the game. I like how his mind works and his whole approach. But the relationship was quite funny. He would tease me quite often. I remember, I think we were in practice one time, and I dropped 2 passes. And we're sitting up there the next day watching the game film or practice film, and he just pauses the film. He turns and looks at me, and he's like, "Taylor, you've dropped more passes today than your dad dropped his entire career at Georgia Tech." And this is in like a public setting, in front of the team. I'm just like, that was a burn and a half. But no, I mean, it was. I took a lot of the things that I learned from him about the game of football, right, and applied it even after my career at South Carolina. And I wouldn't have rather played for anybody. And when he called me and offered me that scholarship, it really didn't matter who else did. I was going to go play for him. He's a legend, and yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to play for anybody else.
Was it cool, like bouncing you and your dad, like bouncing it off each other? Like, hey, Coach Spurrier said this. I'm sure he was like, yeah, I can imagine. Like, he said this to me back then. Because, like, I'm not surprised that, like, Spurrier's memory is insane. Like, he remembers this specific play from this specific game, from whatever. Like, how much fun was that? Like, did you ask your dad before you, like, hey, what can I expect from Spurrier? Like what were those conversations like as far as Coach Spurrier is concerned?
It was actually helpful because, I mean, if you like constant, positive reinforcement, then Coach Spurrier is not necessarily, your guy. I mean, you'll go out there and you'll do something exactly how it's supposed to be done, and he'll say, all right, not terrible, and move on. But he prepared me for some of the things that he does, like some of his ticks and how he writes on the whiteboard. He'll write 18 different plays at one time on a whiteboard, where it starts off as like, a simple, smash concept, and it turns into like a poco and quick slants and all that kind of stuff. But one of my fondest memories of their relationship, really not mine, with Coach Spurrier, but my dad came down with me on my visit. He was like, "You're going to see Coach Spurrier? I'd love to see him. I'll come with you." Cool. So he pays his way, comes down with us. And I remember we're getting on the bus to go from, I guess, like our team dinner to somewhere else, or the recruiting dinner to somewhere else. And we're getting on the bus, and Coach Spurrier's like, "Hey, Matt, come on, just ride with me." And just takes my dad. So I remember having to ride on the bus all alone that time, but it was quite the interesting.
Yeah, they left you behind on the bus. That's funny.